Well, 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 Mortarion, here we are. Me and you, just running. Oh, I'm so scared right now, but it's got to happen sometime. So I've primed him in Wraithbone. I'm going to start light, work my way up. He's relatively, I don't want to say forgiving because I'm just getting started, but in terms of all the stuff that I need to darken up later on the inside, it's relatively easy to get to. I didn't plop him all the way on a base. Uh, I might regret that in a bit, but I'm probably going to try to do some neat stuff uh, with his base anyway. So I don't know. We'll see. I genuinely don't have a concrete game plan right now. I know that I want to start with things that are relatively light. Um, Obviously, I primed him that way. I'm just going to add little bits of color as I go. I'm going to leave this guy aside for now. But yeah, you just sit there, buddy. I'm going to start. And this may sound a little excessive. I don't know, because I don't know any better. But I'm actually going to, even though he's already very light colored, I'm going to dry brush him, the wings, with a little bit of rack white. Because I'm going to end up using some contrast and some washes on here. And there's a lot of little veiny lines and stuff and edges. And if I can just bring them up a little bit, I don't know. Seems like a decent idea. I say, why not? So, I'm actually not sure whether or not I should use rack white or Corax white. I can't actually tell which one's whiter. We'll see. I was not going to paint this model, but then I received it as a birthday gift, and here we are. So it is what it is. Let's go. Looks decent. And that does actually show up, so I don't think I'm doing anything particularly wrong by doing this. I'm going to hit the edges a little extra. Probably doesn't film so great, but that's life. Oh man, I am so terrified, but I can do this. It's an amazingly beautiful model. Yeah, it's I've got them. I mean, I'm starting from very light. I have that color shift stuff, which I'm probably going to use very sparingly, probably in like rings around those holes. Oof, my hands are shaking. Ugh. We're just going to go step by step. I'm going to switch to Corax. Yeah, the wings are very important, and his armor and such. There you go. Yeah, that is wider. Could have just tested it first, but I'm really just operating on instinct. This is making a lot of noise up here, which is spooking me. Yeah, it's just bringing those edges up nicely. I've decided I have to use some amount of Mortarion grime on him. On principle. I don't know where I'll use it yet. Yeah, so I don't know if the camera picks that up, but you can see that the dry brushing is definitely lightening up the edges even past that Wraithbone that we did, which is good. It's getting all the little ridges in there. Oh boy. Well, step one is going all right so far. So a couple things I noticed while putting the model together is that he's got a lot of duplicate parts that don't at face value seem like they're all that important, but they are. I was actually showing my wife earlier today the faceplate that I put on him because I chose to put the gun in his right hand. He's actually looking down it with his eye squinted, which is pretty darn cool. It's like a crazy detail. I was like, why did they give him a different... So the faceplate, this piece of cloth, a couple other parts are different because they have to interact with these hoses here and things like that. So you get like 2 sets of head pieces. You better sit very carefully over there, buddy. Don't you do anything wild. And when I was putting it together, I was like, this seems very, very strange. It turns out it's just the crazy attention to detail. More on there. Alright, so as enrapturing it is as it is, we're painting white on white to start because we care. There we go. Yeah, that Corax is way better. Get all the way around that guy and smush that into the bristles. All the way around that edge. Get all these veiny things. I have no idea how long it's going to take me to get through this whole guy. It's going to be quite a while. It's going to be a marathon. I think it was a total of 15 hours to get through the Night Tyrant. It's a long time. And this guy is definitely going to be more. While his parts aren't massive, there's a crazy amount of detail, and I feel a moral imperative to do right by him. Yeah, that's awesome, Dean. That's really, really good. Yeah, it was a little tougher for my mom to figure out where her grandfather was, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say my mom's not as good with the internet as you are, and I don't know, it's not right down. I mean, I don't know, your grandparents are down the road, but like my mom had to do research in France, so I think my dad had to go on the phone a couple times, probably most likely. My dad does speak some French, among other things. My dad speaks a lot of languages. I think he was going to teach foreign language in high school before he gave that all up and worked at UPS for 37 years because he had bills to pay. And I don't think he liked teaching all that much. But anywho, I am psyched that you found that out, and that's a great Christmas gift. And it's good, like getting in touch with your own personal history and keeping mindful of it. I think is just awesome. Family's important. Alrighty. That looks pretty good. On this side, we'll flip them over, and then we're going to move on to contrast paints, which is scary as well. Alright, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. There we go. All along this bottom edge nicely. All along those veiny things. That'll just bring the very edges of them up a bit. Not a ton, obviously, but just enough. And yeah, I am stalling a little bit. That much is true. But that's okay. I just sink into this at my own pace. Make sure I got these edges all nice, looking good. Looking good. A little bit more over here. All right. So then, plop this guy shut. Just get a little bit more of this off of here. And then. What I'm going to start with is the silicon gray. I don't think I've ever actually used for realsies. The test I'm going to do, because I know that I want all this fuzzy furry stuff here to be darker than the wing itself, is I'm going to try it up here first. I may still use it on the top part of the wing, but I'm not committed to that yet, because I don't know exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, it's kind of dark. We're just going to go little by little. I broke out some nicer brushes for this endeavor. Let's see. Yeah, you're good. Grab this guy. Always save those little things. I'm probably going to end up using one of these to siphon out some, what is it called? Lamian medium later. Ooh. Do I want to thin this now with it? That's a good question. I will siphon out some right this very minute. I need to get a neutral colored one of these, but that's for another time. Give it a shake. All right. Put that in there. Siphon some out. Drop the whole thing in. I should just get some little syringes at some point. All right, just fill that guy up. And now I can dip back into here without messing up this whole pot of stuff, which is probably for the best. All right, silicon gray. You are pretty dark. Push that out a little bit. Put that in there a little bit. Yeah, you're probably way too dark. Man, you look terrifying. But I'm not that familiar with contrast paints, so I'll just get that in there. Yeah, that's too dark to use on the actual wing, but it will make all these little guys stand out a bit. Just a bit. That is why we experiment. Don't just go whole hog on this guy. Alright, so that's essentially like a strong wash. But it's gotten all the texture popping, which is what I wanted. I'm fine with that. But it is a pretty dark gray. This, you can see all those hairs coming up, which is good. This is different than a wash, and it's thicker. Sort of performs differently. Now these guys are, yeah, they're popping out nicely. I'm gonna have to add some color in there in a bit, but letting this dry, I know that at least those hairs are sticking up nicely. All right, experiment one down. Experiment the second. Just finding out, I can scooch that over there, whether or not Gilliman flesh is going to work as something around those little, all those little holes. Tempting. My other potential, got Reikland flesh shade as a shade, but I am going to try first to get this popping with Gilliman flesh. And once again, I'm going to start on a spot that's probably going to end up a bit darker. So the spine that's on this, I'm going to start with that. Scooch some of this in here as well. I don't have to go back and forth between that Lamian medium, and I am going to thin this out a little bit. Because a lot of what I'm doing is live, testing out my colors. Which, man, I look forward to the day when I know a lot more and I've done a lot more things. Testing out a Mortarion seems a little bit crazy. Tap some of that on the side of here. Ooh. All right. It's all mixed up. Make sure my brush isn't overloaded. And then we'll get this whole spine with this stuff. And that is pretty dark. Good enough for the spine. I wouldn't want to do it on the wing. I think this wing may be just getting... Scoot you out of the way a little bit, buddy. The wing may just be getting shades. Of course, as I thin this out and move it, it does lighten up quite a bit. So when I see that, I feel fine about it. So maybe what I'll do is just make sure this stuff is really, really loose. And I can go down a little bit further. There you go, buddy. So yeah, I don't mind that. It's really just thickening in the recesses, and that's not a terrible thing. It's not a terrible thing at all. And actually, that gray, now that it's had a chance to soak into the primer, I like that gray. That's probably going to work with just a little bit of shade over it. That little piece is going to get bronze. Don't have to worry about him. Someone delete. I think there might be. I haven't deleted anything, but I don't know where those went. Are those in general? No. I genuinely don't know. I have a bot running. That might do it. I have a bot running, and I don't know exactly that he's under control. So it certainly could be a bot going through and sifting through messages. I don't know why it would do anything weird with it, but no, I have not. It's the same bot that like does the update when I'm going online. So I blame the bot. I do need to spend an afternoon and actually figure out how that bot works. Because I gotta tell you, I basically just installed it on the Discord channel and that was that. I was suggesting a website to help you find. Sweet. I would say give it another try. But I am very much only nominally in control of the Discord right now. I do need to spend an afternoon to figure out. There's a bunch of basically check boxes you click when you install that guy. And I went pretty quick, which is why some people couldn't even see some of the announcement stuff. But I'll take a look at it at some point soon and get it all squared up. All right, so that's relatively light, and I like it. I'm going to hit the spine on this wing. Let's dig in here a little bit, get a couple of these little spots in here. There you go, buddy. All the way up to that edge. And I can even go into this fuzzy stuff a bit. It's going to get a wash of some sort, maybe a purple. I don't want to go crazy purple like some people do, or crazy amounts of blue. I want it to generally be like a light color scheme, but I am going to use colors against my Death Guard instincts. Okay, so what I will do here is thin this up a little bit more. I'm going to make my way down some of the top part of some of these spines, because I am liking how this is looking. And this is very much like using a thin chalk or something like that. It's very light until you lay it on heavy. I like this. I think it's a little bit, I don't want to say ironic. Well, it's Gilliman flesh. It's a little ironic. Yeah, let's do this. All right, I'm sold. We're gonna do the top part of the wings in this Gilliman flesh. I am now sold. I've seen enough of it to know that I like it. It is very tasteful. And it will sink into the spots where it needs to be darker. That's cool. Do a little bit of, as much as I can, sort of paint by numbers thing. Where I'm going to go only up so far in a few spots to where there's like a ridge separating. Obviously, I just boned that part right there. That's fine now. I'll just get in here, give them a little water cleanup. And in fact, that may be how I get some of the fade to happen. But basically, only going to go up so far, up to sort of a vein intersection like this one. I'll get up on this ridge here. This one I have to sort of make up with that little notch, but I'll get in here. That way, where the contrast paint really abuts one of these veins, delete it again. So you're like on the Discord right now. Yeah, I've obviously my hands are like loaded. I'm definitely not doing that. I'm at least glad we proved that part out. Weird. It did take a while for this thing to actually post that I was going to be online. So I do wonder if on the weekends the bot just gets like overloaded and upset with its lot in life. All right, so we'll do the same thing on the back side here. Yeah, Gilliman flesh, you good stuff. You good stuff. Mortarion loves Gilliman. Best buddies. Where in your flesh, Gilliman? Where in your flesh? Okay, I can go to there, I can go to there, I can go there, I can go there. Yep, go right over this, into that little nook. There. Look at that. That's very mild. And obviously I got to push some of this contrast around so it doesn't pool up at all, or at least not where I don't want it to pool. Cool. I will check it out. That is like a very tasteful start. And I don't have to worry like crazily if it goes over the edge a little bit, because I am going to have to do some hefty amount of blending between spots. And that may very well be like dumping a few drops of water in here on the next pass and just going over this again and just going a little bit further than a few drops more in the next pass. We'll see about that. Sounds like a good idea on paper. I'm not sure that it is. But I do I think I like sort of thinking out loud. I do sort of like going with like a lot of flesh tones on this model. I think that will be for the best. Now this time around on this wing, I don't have to be nearly as precarious about it. I know what I'm doing. I can hit this whole spine and both sides of the wing with a mild amount of confidence, not hubris. That whole spine, let some of that stuff just sink in. Get in here. See how nice that looks. Right in this whole divot here. Just move that contrast paint into where it wants to go. Give it a little boost. And any that's sort of extra and piling up, you just scoop back up with the brush and give it a scoot. Getting over these veins. All the way down here. There we go. Boop, 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 boop on that end. I will need to refill this little spot with it soon. Cup that I'm using. Silicone guy. When you're done, pop all the dry paint out. It works just fine. All right, just a bit more in there. Over that vein, all the way down to the end of the wing. Now, set that guy down. Drop in some more Gilliman flesh, not as much as I had last time. I'll thin it out with some Lemon medium, which I don't even know if it's the right thing to use, but we are learning, folks. Learning. Check this out. I will check out that website. In 40K rules discussion, it's fine. That actually tells me a lot, though, because of maybe it's how the rules are set up or whatever. That's why it showed up there and not elsewhere. My Me6 bot may be scraping messages and moving things around and removing them. It's a very AI thing to do. All right, let's pick up some Lamia medium. I just pushing on the side of this little cup so I'm not tainting it too much. This is just to thin that paint out a bit. There we go. Give it a stir. Once again, we are off to the races. Yeah, nice and thin. That way I can lay it on there. Not worry too much about regret. If it goes over the edge, that's fine because I'm blending there later. Probably need a little drop more. There we go. And this is like the mildest color scheme I've ever, by a long shot, ever even tried. Dane, you know, like by this point I'd be like, all right, it's time for the grime. Showing amazing restraint with this model. I think this is going to be one of those color schemes that just sort of happens as it goes. Just keep trying different things in little spots, see how comfortable I get with it, because I genuinely don't know how I want the finished product to look. I've grabbed very mild colors. I know his armor is going to be light. It's not going to be Death Guardy green. It is going to be way closer to the lighter treatment that I've done on a bunch of parts of my stuff already. All right, as I look around, do I see any funny spots? There's a little bit of funniness there. We'll need to add some coloration in. It might make sense to pick out what I want to do on the bottom first, maybe. Make another risky move on the bottom, and then cope with the results. The reason I'm choosing the bottom is, well, I'm being somewhat conservative, but the bottom part, if I choose a color that I don't like completely as I put it on, I've still got room to do some blending. That seems logical, right? All right, clean this guy out. Contrast. So I've got Mortarion green. I've got Skeleton Horde. Those Skeleton Horde is probably going on his armor. Snakebite leather. It looks pretty dark. It does look pretty dark. I feel like Skeleton Horde is a little light. Oh boy. Well, let's see how this looks. Yeah, that is some dark stuff. Oof. This might be a bit much. Might be a bit much. I'll add some water to it. I'll add some Lamian medium to it. But it looks pretty dark. Not gonna lie to you. It looks pretty flippin' dark. Even getting in there? There we go. Stick my head in the shot. I'm so curious. All right. Well, no guts, no glory, folks. That is a little more leathery than I was anticipating. I am just very gingerly going to hit the edge. That'll help. Some other color that ends up going over it. I can add a lot more water to this. In fact, I can use my doohickey again. Boop. This is a little, well, as an undercoat, it might not be bad. I don't want to diss it too much too early. Then I could go to Skeleton Horde. Alrighty. Well, we made our peace with it. Let's just do it. I think the last touches I'll do will be like some amount of reasonably bright stuff, but I don't want it everywhere. I want it to sort of pop out in little bits. Does look moth-like. Probably a model more than it is the artist. I'm going to sit you up here. There we go. I am so scared of colors. I gotta tell you. It's really interesting to experiment, but it's scary business. What I would like is for these wings to sort of not look like, but harken to like mummy wrappings a bit. And the snakebite leather is little, well, I don't know. As it's drying, I don't feel too bad about it. I don't know that I want to go much further than this with it. But I think the center of this needs a pretty light touch. I gotta go to something lighter. I do need the edges of the holes and the sort of pock marks that are in there. Those gotta get some color in them. So maybe I'm just eking my way towards washes. That's fine. I could absolutely get into Seraphim Sepia territory, though my armor's probably going to get a lot of that. So I don't want to go too nuts there. Dry this off and move some of this contrast around. There we go. All right, so these guys, I can actually stand them up like that. Those guys can stand to dry. And that's a pretty strong line. This is obviously a bit milder. But if the edge of it is like that, I can probably work with washes to sort of get a decent blend, stroke after stroke. And then what I'd probably want to do is get the veins a slightly different color, and those may get brightened up. I don't think I'll be able to dry brush those up. I think at the end, I'll hit them with something lighter. But it may be time to let those guys dry a little bit and then cope with the man himself. I do need to see how a wash of Seraphim Sepia straight up would look, but I think I need to get him a little bit darker before I do that. So I have Iron Rack skin. I have Xandri dust. It may make sense. Maybe. Good lord, that tea's hot. I forgot that the tea inside the thermos was brutally hot. It may make sense for me to get into some of the spots that I want to have be darker right out the gate. In which case that would be Xandri dust. As these things dry, I ponder. Gotta make sure I find a place for my Mortarion grime. Alright. I just click a couple things over here, make sure I'm still rocking. Yeah, we are looking good. Alrighty. So, bam. I'll leave the iron rack off to the side a little bit. Xandri dust getting inside there. Scooch this guy away a little bit. I think I need a slightly more precise brush. Nothing too crazy. Actually, this one does come to a pretty decent tip. I could probably get away with it. You sure about that, buddy? You sure about that? I'm gonna grab a smaller brush. I'll be right back. No reason to be cheap. All right, so what I'm going to do is normally on my small guy models, and I got to be super careful because there is that chain attached back there. I keep forgetting about it. Is normally what I would do is I do like a Death Guardy green on the kneecaps and shoulders, and then do a bunch of rest lighter. What I'm doing here is I'm sticking all in the tan range, tan to white range, and so I'm going to do the kneecaps and pauldrons in Xandri dust. Give them a little bit darker look. And if I bump up against that skull business, that's okay. That's going to get metallics all over it. It's fine. In fact, if I was trying to go fast, I would ride all over those like crazy. But I'm not trying to go that fast. I think I thinned my paint out too much. I'm going back to my basics, like when I started thinning everything super thin because I was scared all the time. Reverting. I'm a child again. This first coat, especially on Wraithbone, is always a little bit squirrely. Wraithbone is just a weird primer. It's very thick. I shook the daylights out of this stuff. If you don't, it can cake quite a bit, and it's extremely reactive to humidity and temp. But as a result, it can, the first coat can tend to just absolutely suck up the paint. There we go. People leaving my house. My house is under siege. Get in there nicely around this skull. I think that's going to be a good color. I am pleased with that. Not pleased with. No, I just said I didn't have to worry too much about nicking the skull, and I did. And I should have meant it. And I do mean it. I'm not going back to that. You will get metallicized in due time, friend. You'll note I am using a green brush, but this is a brand new green one. If you have been watching a bunch of these, my green brushes are all destined for combat duty someday. I sort of put them through the races, through the paces. I don't know. I put them through hell, and then I use them for all my crazy stuff, like all the weird technical stuff that Rex brushes. But they always get an option first pass at glory, and they're nice and fresh and new. So this is this guy's shining moment, his oath of moment. Indeed. I keep all these little pieces and bits way up on a high shelf. There we go. This is fun. This is a lot of fun. I like this model. I should never have been scared of it. It does benefit from having a lot of big beefy parts on it. And I'm obviously like nowhere near into the gory details yet. But you can get around. You can absolutely get around, which is nice. You can navigate. I am also at the same time learning to take better care of my brushes, which is good. Got some brush soap. Actually use it Early on, I really didn't know what to do with my brushes, and I was only working with the Citadel like base brushes, like the starter brushes. I still like those brushes. I actually have a couple right here. Base brush, I mean, that thing's a little beat up, but as a general purpose like workhorse, it does mad work. Just get it in there. Link. It's going to take me a long time to do metallics on this guy. He's got all kinds of metallic stuff going on. He's pretty metal. Dab that in there. Get this piece. Even his pauldrons are like multi-piece layered ones. Very, very cool stuff. Lots of time to paint. Which thankfully, like dollars to donuts, the amount of hours of entertainment I'm going to get out of this guy is pretty high. A little more paint, a little more water. Clean the brush a bit, get back to a decent tip. Keep on rocking. I do need to be mindful of the time as I eventually have to make dinner happen in this house. But for now, I think everybody's just chilling out, sleeping. Yeah, today is a holiday, which I am psyched for. Get to paint during the day. All right, so I think our scheme is working out. And after I finish this pauldron, I'll either go on to the second one or maybe just hold up the wings and sort of see where stuff is matching and not. That may give me some amount of clues. Getting a sense of where the wings go while I'm working on the body and then where the body's going while I'm working on the wings, I think is going to be super important. They're supposed to complement each other. I mean, if you look at, not that I have to do this like anyone else's model, but if you look at most of the ones that look really cool, there's like something different about the wings than it is about the body. And I think that's what I want to have show through. Like have the wings be like this really interesting highlight on the whole thing. So I should be going back and forth, seeing what works and what doesn't. Oh yeah, this is all corroded. Nice. All the way into there. Little dip in here. Not the cleanest work yet, but it's good. And in this first pass, I'm not making many mistakes. I am like going over some things a little much. There's some serious room for recovery later. There's a whole bunch of more layers that are going to happen. Alrighty, moving forward, get this other pauldron going. See how I feel about the whole thing. Clean that up a little and get some brushes going. Now I gotta be careful as I turn them. There we go. Lots of little itty bitty divots to get in. This brush is quite long. I'm not sure how I feel about that. My control with it is mediocre at best. There we go. Just take my time getting into all those little spots. I don't want to hit too much of that bone. So the base of that bone is going to be darker than the end. This might be a little too dark. I'm mostly just going to use washes to get the bone sections looking like what I want. And it is very intentionally like a pretty smooth transition. His armor is all cracked in a way that looks like cracked bone around it. I don't have to freak too much. But it's very different than when you're going over something in metal next and you're like, yeah, I don't care. I shouldn't say metal in general, like Warplock bronze, like nothing shines through that. It blots out the sun. Okay. A couple more little steps. Do need to sneak in here a little bit. Zoink. Get this edge. A little bit of a reach, but it's not bad. Not too shabby. Everybody just take your time and chill out. Look at all this detail. I don't even know where someone gets started modeling this thing. It's funny I say that because I work with a bunch of people who are 3D modelers and they do amazing stuff, but I'm always like dumbfounded. I'm okay with 3D modeling software, but like I'm like a CAD person with like angles everywhere. Like I'm not a ZBrush wizard. People that actually just in the same way with drawing, I don't really draw. I draw diagrams well. I'm very much a designer, not an artist. People's ability to go in and 3D up super organic looking things to me is just mad sorcery. I love it. I love that people can do it. A little bit underneath each one. That one's going to be metal, so I don't have to worry too much about it. But this one's not, so I want to get all of it. Got the Luke Skywalker Darth Vader arm right now. It's pretty cool. Underneath, underneath, underneath. Just being careful, talking myself out of going too fast. Plenty underneath here to do. we go. Alright, so it's time to take a look at this guy. See how he's shaping up. So color-wise, I'm going to get a little wash on this thing first. Color-wise, angling this right. I'm not even sure that's the way it goes. Obviously, it's all basey stuff. I'm tempted to hit the chest plate on this with this same darker color. Tempted. But basically, boots, shins, thighs. Yeah, boots, shin, thighs, probably enough. Those are going to get a much lighter treatment than that. Could just go straight Seraphim Sepia and see how that goes. I probably should. And then I'll do a little bit of dry brush of probably, what do we got? Tyrant Skull, maybe? Rock Earth Flesh. If I need to brighten up some areas and get them to lift a little bit, but yeah, let's go into the Seraphim Sepia moment of this operation. At this point, got my last cup here. At this point, I can go pretty liberal with the brush that I use in terms of this Lamian medium, because I think that's going to be all she wrote. And I need a decent amount of this stuff. All right. I'm just going to mix back and forth. Stir. Doing this the most mathematically inert way possible. All right. So is it too thin? Did I thin it too much? I don't think so. There we go. Now you're doing your Seraphim Sepia thing. I do love how this stuff looks. And I'm going thin to start just so that I don't end up with a crazy amount of splooshy spots. I do like how it fills in, and then later you can hit it with something like Agrax and really get a lot of the tiny details to come in. But as far as getting yourself to a nice off-white, stuff is magnifique. And it fills in lines not too dark. Very tasteful. Yeah, I'm going to need way more of this mix right here. There we go. Poop, poop. Pop, pop. I knew I was going to use a lot of Seraphim Sepia. It is the color of choice. Mix that all up. Should be a little more careful than I'm being. I'm getting excited. I know I'm covering a mad amount of real estate. Q-tip in there, just soak that up. Simmer down, old man, simmer down. Most of the stuff around this will eventually get metallics, so once again, not too terrified. But that cloth, I do want to miss that cloth. That would be the smart play, is not get too much on the cloth. But if you're mindful, you can fix it. The nice thing is I can hit the skulls too. Not worry too much. Not worry at all really about it. That's how I treat my skulls anyway. I'll just bloop you a little bit to start. Yeah, it's a little bit darker up there. Good. Good, good, good. Looking proper. Alright, I've got this area hiding here. Where did I see it? Yeah, right in there. There you go, buddy. Once again, the cloth, could just dab it a little bit, be safe. I will say that this Seraphim Sepia over the Wraithbone Prime, that Prime just gobbles it, which is kind of good. It doesn't just run all over the place. It gets eaten up. All right. So he's looking, I mean, he's obviously still very, very light. But that was what we were going for. So no harm there. And in some spots, he's not going to get much darker. Sort of the cotton mummy wrap cloth vibe going. All right, we can get some more in here. Yoink. Get all up in your butt. All behind this boot. All these hidey places. I'm not too worried about this, but man, when I get to that cloth is going to be something. I better really get my act together for that. Supremely together. All right. Now the question is that a good in between for these two? And I think it might be. I'll add a bunch of color back to this, to the wings, but it might be the way to go. It is interesting that Seraphim Sepia's got, you know, enough red in it to give it that orange sepia kind of look. But it's also brownish. It might seal the gap. That said, I got to get some color in there also. I don't think it's going to work on its own. Don't think it's going to work on its own at all. Get right in there. Let's see, under this arm. Yeah, I think this light armor is going to look nice. It's already looking nice. Looks classy. It's like wearing a cream-colored suit. But as just a starting point, I like this color a lot. It's very desert kind of feel to it. I'm not grabbing this guy by a wet paint spot. I feel terrible. Ooh, get that little gear in there with some of this. It'll get metal later, but there are places that I want this paint to seep to in there that can only really get. Yep, ding them. Yep, inside there, there's still a little spot. Push that thing in. Feel good about your choices. Do you feel good about your choices? God, I hope so. Oh, I gotta get his hands. His hands. Catch these hands. It is such a cool gun. Oh, so neat. Good job, gun. Just make sure that this wash gets into all those little creases and bits. Between all those fingers. Very nice. Oh, jeez, what am I going to do with this cloth? That's where a lot of the color is going to come through. That's where it's going to have to come through. Absolutely. But under the light, I don't know. It doesn't look fantastic, but up close, this look is pretty solid. I have a feeling that that line is way too harsh on that wing. How do you fit in? Like this? I think you do. Or is it like this? I can't even tell. Oh yeah, it's got to be this way. There's a little spot on his back for it. All right, well, let's set him back here to dry up a bit. Gently. Now I'm going to try some of this Seraphim Sepia as sort of a go-between. Back here. As I was saying before, I may need to do something about the line that sort of formed there, but I'm not entirely sure. Boom. That tells me I may have very little time left. Time flies when you're painting things. Yeah, that's probably too much. Just dip that in there a little bit. Flip him over. I'm intentionally getting all the way over to this Gilliman flesh. That line's a little naughty. I can blend back from it though when I get to it. I think I am very swiftly going to reach the point where I gotta let these guys just dry and cure a bit. Alright, so I'll stand this dude up over here. And I'll ponder my sins. But little by little, I'm going to get some amount of blending going from the ends of this to the top. My line is pretty harsh right now, so I'm going to have to find a way to cope with that. But it may just be more washing with thinned and thinned and thinned washes. You can see, like you can see that line right there, and it's not terrible right now, but don't want it to be permanent. Or at the very least, I will have to go over it in many steps. But it's hanging. Like, we're getting there. to that Gilliman flesh where it meets in the corner. All right. So our color scheme, quote unquote, isn't amazingly colorful now, but my hope is that it's going to be a lot of just little targeted highlights in spots, like these rings where the moth wings are just shredded. Get around those with some stuff. I do have that sparkly color shift stuff, which I'm probably going to employ at some point. But not today. Not today at all. Yeah, that line's pretty strong. We're going to have to figure that guy out. So what I'm doing here is just taking what is on there and going up a little farther with it, just using what's on the brush. Sort of smooth it through. Stand him back up, and I will do the same treatment on this other guy, and then I'm probably going to tap for the day. Yeah, so you can see I'm just pulling up what is still on there a little bit, which gives you a nice thinner sort of second coat. Keeps you from going too thick on there, and because you're not adding any more pigment to the equation, what's going up taller is just naturally a thinner treatment. I don't know. We're trying. We're trying, folks. All right. Well, that is where we will call it. That's not even how they look. There we go. Like that, but I'm not going to do it because they're damp. That is where we will pause for today. But I'm glad the ball is now rolling. I've gotten some paint on this guy, which means the project is running. The wings are tough. I got to figure out a lot of things about those wings. The Gilliman flesh looks really good. Snake bite leather did not. I've got things I can do. But, yeah, I'm a little puzzled. He does look very fleshy. He does look fleshy right now. I mean, he's supposed to have, like, lots of just, like, cream colors on him. But he very intentionally looks pretty fleshy. Very light color scheme. I'm going to get most of my contrast off of his robes, which are all just still totally white. And those will be light, but, like, with little dabs of color. Not sure if I want to go blue. Don't think I want to go green. But this is one of those models where, like, it's got enough real estate on it where it's about the contrast between things. Sweet. Well, next time I may pop some amount of metallics in, because that'll start to get me some dark areas. My eyes and just totally staring at light stuff. But I think next time I'm probably going to do more work on the wings and start tackling these robes, because they're complicated. Very much so. Anyhow, I'm a bounce. I will see y'all next time. And there will be a lot of next times because this model's going to take forever. Anyway, take care. Thanks for joining.